Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Sheep Guys podcast. My name is Zach, your host, and this is Monty.
Sorry. Amen. Hey, there I am.
I took your thunder, dude.
There I am.
So, welcome again. We're glad that you're here. I want to ask you to subscribe and like, right? Helps the algorithm. We think that our content is going to help a lot of people. Whether you believe in Jesus like we do or not, we believe that there is meat and potatoes in what we discuss here. It can be life-changing. It can show you a pathway to successful recovery from your drug and or addiction of choice.
Just life.
Well, we all have coping mechanisms,
Right.
and a lot of them are not good for us.
Food.
Mine is energy drinks lately.
Mine are peanut M&Ms. I'm convinced that they're like a superfood.
Well,
whatever a drunk dude gets when he walks into like a 7-Eleven after he's filled up with gas and he's kind of like focused on not being walking over to the Schlitz malt liquor. That's me in the peanut M&Ms.
There's a drunk dude getting gas. That's what I got stuck on.
No.
Oh. I got stuck on drinking and driving.
Going into the convenience store, you know, I always hear dudes say, "Yeah, I just have to really discipline myself to go in there and not go over to the beer, the beer cabinet or whatever the thing is."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the beer cabinet, but like for me, it's every single time. It's like, and I mean, I even got to go through the permutation of, I could get just like a single pack and not like a share pack.
No, you got to get the Costco pack and then dole it out appropriately.
So it's just like the whole thing with recovery. It's just bogus that people think it's alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
It's not.
So it's not because what it is it's filling a God-sized hole.
Amen.
It's a void, and what we think is that if we have stuff to put in it, it'll somehow fill the hole.
You got to fill the hole with peanut M&Ms.
So I say, what fills a God-sized hole?
Not peanut M&Ms.
God. All right. So made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. That's what AA says. We just say over the care of God because we believe that there is one God manifest in the person of Jesus Christ. But with that said, we're going to talk about, this is step 3 because we are in March. And step 3, I think, is a salvation step. It's about giving it over and deciding to give your life over to God and your will. Interestingly, so last week, if anybody heard the episode from last week, I talked about kind of where I turned myself over to God and what that experience was like. But I've had a long history of taking my own will back, believing that I can do things better than how God has instructed me. And interesting about God, he invites us to live in obedience. God gives us free will. I know some of these things, are theological in nature, but the truth is that he's a gentleman and he doesn't mandate or require that we have to do what he asks. But he invites us to do what he's asked us to do, which brings a fulfilling and right way of operating and doing life. So the thing is this, if you go back to the Garden of Eden, the whole crux became God is holding out on you. Like there is fulfillment that you can have that is outside of what God has told you is good for you.
Yeah, the world, kind of what it's called.
Well, it's what was presented by the serpent in the garden.
Yeah.
And the serpent says to Eve, did he surely say? Like challenging what God said, number one. And the second thing is, he accused God and said, he knows that if you partake of the fruit, you will be like him. You will know the difference between good and evil. So it wasn't as if it was a full lie. It was a deception. And so what happens is we go, maybe outside of God, there's fulfillment. And that maybe God isn't giving us everything we would need in order to complete or fulfill everything that we want. And so we grasp for things. Most of us, I think everybody grasps for things. And those of us who fall into a pattern of a particular type of addiction, mine was alcohol, which led to drugs, which led to gambling, which led to all kinds of poor choices associated with that. Some people, it's food, lust, it's the whole gamut. And I want to share about what it's like to backslide, or what it is like to relapse. So within recovery world, it's called relapse. In the Christian world, we call it backsliding. So my salvation experience was traumatic. I gave my life over to God when I turned 18. It felt like a warm bucket of water was poured over my head, like being baptized in the Holy Spirit. I was totally changed from the inside out. And I became a missionary to the Philippines. And I lived in Davao City and went to Bible college.
You've got this like whole life that I have no idea about.
Oh, you didn't know? Yeah. So,
well,
okay.
I mean, I kind of knew that you had lived in the Philippines. But
Yeah.
and I knew you had done some theology study over there. Or
Yeah.
studies, but
So I lived there.
I just don't know that, Zach.
They opened up the parsonage, so the house for the pastor, and they told me I could live there. It was a full-on God thing. I knew that when I left with a church called Hope Chapel in Hermosa Beach, California, there was a 2-week...
I know that church.
Yeah. There was a 2-week missionary trip, and I felt like if I went that I wasn't going to come back, and I really felt that that's what God was going to have me do. So in faith, I'm a fairly young Christian at this point, really feeling the call of God. And I put all my stuff in storage. I moved out of the apartment I was renting, parked my truck at my dad's house, and left for the Philippines. And ironically, they invited me to stay. And so for 2 years, I was a missionary. I worked, I preached almost every weekend. I worked with a whole bunch of different churches and worked with the youth. And then went to Bible college there for a couple years. And when I got back to the U.S. a couple years later, I got involved with, my ex-wife, one of my ex-wives. Yes, I have a history. We'll get to that over time.
Yeah, that'll be month 8.
No, it wasn't that. But my point is that
that's not month 3.
No. So, but I slowly but surely started to make life choices that led me away from the path of God. And they seemed small at the time and incremental. I had a dramatic conversion experience where I was a drug addict, methamphetamines, mushrooms, cocaine, alcohol, the whole thing. And then I stopped everything. God came into my life and just transformed me.
Healed you up.
Yeah, healed me up. But ironically, what happened to me was, so this isn't anything negative about Hope Chapel per se, but there was like the young 21-year-old plus group that after services on Fridays and Saturdays, they would go to like Chili's and they would have a couple drinks, right? I'm not even saying that's bad. But I thought to myself, well, I could do that. Like I could go and be that guy too with them. You know, we're Christians. I used to have problems. And it opened back that doorway. I don't know if you want to call it the familiar spirits. You know, it's funny that they do call alcohol spirits, you know. But
I never thought of that before. It doesn't sound accidental, does it?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe it was the American Indians that named that, like the whole whiskey thing.
Yeah, right.
Turn into crazy people like me on tequila.
I have stories. So I ended up, dabbling a little bit, and then, other people could have a drink or two and then feel fine and, whatever, go home. And I was just priming the pump at that point. So I'd go home as well, but I'd buy a little bottle on my way. And so that became a pattern. And then this toxic relationship that I had with the girl that I was dating, who I then married, and but I slowly started to ebb my way away from staying in the belief that I needed to just be pursuing God. And so what happened was, I didn't get married at this point yet, but I got a DUI, and I went with a deferred prosecution, which most people who have alcohol problems do. Deferred prosecution means, hey, you go to AA, you get your court slip signed, and you can evade of having that on your record if you stay sober for 2 years and you go through the program. So a lot of people in 12-step programs, especially AA, they come in with their court slips, and they get their court slips signed by the person who's chairing the meeting.
That sounds smart.
Yeah, it is smart. It gets people involved in participating in recovery. So I did that, and after that, I got a business partner, started doing high-rise windows and stuff like that. And he was like, dude, why can't you just have one beer with me, right? And by this point, like, I didn't stay in the program. I kind of veered away from being like active in the program. And, the carrot was dangled: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Here's the American dream. Go get it, right? Buy things, pursue things, make money, all of the stuff. And so I started to do that, but I also started to think like, I'm mature now. I've mastered my addictive nature. And so I started to drink from time to time. But every time I did, I would drink to excess, or I would drink and probably get drunk. Rarely did I not, get drunk. I wasn't a fall down drunk. I was very capable. Most people wouldn't know. I've already had 9 beers, because I would have 9 before I showed up at your house to have another 6-pack.
Yeah. I think some of that's situational, because there's some people who just aren't going to drink 9 beers. Forget, I can't drink 9 beers. You could probably drink a lot more than 9 if you had to.
Yeah, and then shots.
And I know people like that.
Thing. Yeah.
So some of it is somebody recognizing who they are and how they are.
Well, I think it kept me on this path, and I kept telling myself, I'll eventually stop.
Yeah.
I'll get sober. When this happens, I'll stop. Like when my son is born, I'll stop. When my business relationship gets to this place, or I make this much money, or after I buy my house, then I'll stop. And I was a functional person that would not have admitted that I was a genuine alcoholic, because I owned things. I had a successful business. I was managing it fairly well, so I thought. And so I wasn't, I talked about moving the bar. I wasn't living under a bridge. I could pay my bills. I had reasons to say that I'm actually it's not a problem for me. Even though, looking back, there was enough evidence to say, yeah, this is a problem. Well, I'm drinking. This is, I think, I want to say 2005. I go to the desert. We used to drink all night. We have 6-pack racks on our quads. It was, I think, May. And because it was hot, it'd be 110 degrees in the morning out in Glamis, Ocotillo Wells in, Southern California area. And woke up hungover. So this is the beginning of the end for me, okay? Woke up hungover. We used to do a hang-on, not a hangover. They call it hair of a dog here in Texas.
Yep.
And so pop a couple more, get going on that. Feeling good, go out for a ride. Take my quad to the top of a dune, throw in a Brody at the top of the dune, hit a rock, fly off the quad, land at the bottom of the dune. No big deal. Chest protector, helmet, shin, the boots, the whole thing. I stand up. Whoa, that was crazy. My quad is in the air like this.
Yeah, everything was good until
boom, and I turned like this, and it almost ripped my arm off. Broke my back in 4 places. Blew a hole through my boot into my leg. laying there, and my buddy rolls up, and I tell him to take my helmet off because I feel claustrophobic and I'm feeling like I'm dying. So there's that.
You probably were.
And he takes my helmet off, and then he starts to cry, and he calls his wife. So that was not the winning, He
didn't think 911, did he?
No. I'm telling this story to say that. So I had to ride out. So I rode out from where we were back to camp, and once they helicopter flighted me out to save my life, this was now the start of a lot of pain medication. So I was drinking all the time. I did recover. I still got permanent nerve damage in some areas. I did recover, but the pain medicine, the alcohol, eventually I realized like I'm gonna die. I mean, I was smoking it and snorting it, and it was a problem. And I did Suboxone for a while, Subutex, kind of like methadone to get off of all these opiates. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a good idea because I read online that the best way to strip your body from the detox is to do cocaine for a couple days. And
that's like some serious hair of the dog.
Yeah, so I did that.
Really? You read somebody?
Yeah, if you want to strip the what do they call it? The dope sickness from it.
Yeah.
If you do coke for a few days, I guess cocaine is. Don't take any of this advice, by the way. Anybody? Don't do it.
Wherever you read that, it was wrong.
Probably. And supposedly, cocaine you can get off that pretty quick. So anyway, I didn't put the cocaine down. I like that too. So now I'm doing cocaine and I'm drinking and I'm doing the pills, and I got to a place where I just couldn't live this way anymore. And I remember my brother and I were remodeling some houses and doing some things, and I remember just in the backyard telling God, I don't want to be like this anymore. Whatever you've got to do to change me.
Oh my God, that is a very dangerous thing. I mean, it's what it takes, but it's a dangerous thing to tell God whatever you got to do.
Yeah, and I use this term too. Whatever it takes, if I have to lose everything.
Oh, he'll accommodate you.
He did.
Oh, he will accommodate you.
And so from that point, I think it was like 6 or 8 months later, I lost my business. Ended up later, going bankrupt. Complete free fall, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I can say that freely now because I tried to hold on for so long to the things that I thought could fill the God-sized hole that the world was offering, right? Like the houses and the cars and the toys and the boats and the things. And inevitably I would be happy that I had that thing, and then it would wear off and I would need another thing.
Or a bigger thing, or a fancier thing, or more things.
Just more. And so
more.
And the things didn't help, and the drugs didn't help, and the alcohol didn't help, and the cocaine didn't help. And at the end it was, God, I need you to help. And so the greatest thing that ever happened to me was that I lost everything and could only find a place to wholeheartedly only rely on God. And it helped me restore everything, all my relationships. I mean, it took time, right? I mean, in the midst of it, I got audited by the IRS. I think I owed back taxes to the tune of tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars, in addition to, other complications and troubles that it all created. But I say this to say that, like, when I took my will back from wholeheartedly pursuing what God's plan or what his best was for my life, my best thinking got me there. And so when I said, I'm willing, God, to do it your way, whatever that looks like, and then I lost everything, most people would say that's doesn't seem like a God thing. But Christians would. I mean, you would go, yeah, I could see how God does that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the idea that blessing is stuff.
Yeah, except for the Beatitudes is like, blessed are the, and then it's like
not stuff.
The
not
poor in spirit.
Yeah, not blessed are those with a 4-bedroom home.
Yeah.
Blessed are those with 3 cars in their driveway. Blessed are those with quads and Ducatis and
the word blessed.
Nothing against Ducati, but you
no,
know what I'm saying.
It's about the bestower.
Right.
The blesser has plans for us that don't look like our perceived ideas of what the plans are. And so, back to step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. You can do that and then take your will back. And it inevitably brings you to a backslidden or to a relapse situation. But there's no condition that we ever find ourselves in that God is not wooing us back to Him. I use this example, and then we'll conclude. When you put destination in your navigation system, in your car or on your phone, it doesn't matter how many times you turn the wrong way. You turn right, you turn left, you go the opposite direction. It's always just rerouting. It's always taking you back to the place, to the plan that you originally had set out for where you were going. And God is very similar. It's not a matter of a pass or fail. It's you just get to keep turning the corner and going back to what He originally had set out for you. And so what I've got for everybody today is just the idea that, like, if you've taken your will back, even if you're not actively drinking or using or participating in that thing again, eventually it leads to a place where we become enslaved mentally. And there's just freedom. There's freedom in walking our lives out with God where He knows best for us. I mean, ask Adam and Eve. We're the result, So anyway, I think that's all we got.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Did you come up with that whole rerouting analogy thing all on your own? I mean, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, I would
like
normally
that a lot.
give it to someone else if
but that's
it made
really
sense.
good. I like that a lot.
I used to use it back in the day when you had navigation systems that would talk. They would say, recalculating route. Calculating route. Right. And it says that's God. He's like, just recalculating.
He's not mad. Yeah. He's not going to duck.
He's like, you turned the wrong way. He's like that.
Bonehead.
Right. Well, hey.
That's good. I love it.
Good stuff. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, like and subscribe. We want our content to be out for people to be blessed. Have a good day and God bless.